morning. When I wake up, I get up, I wash my face, brush my teeth, and then I meditate for 15 minutes. I do Ziva meditation every day. I do it twice a day for 15 minutes. And then I usually read for about 30 minutes to an hour, how much ever time I have. And after that, I do my prayer, and then I do some form of exercise. And then 2 days a week, we have a chef to come in. So husband and I usually have breakfast together, or if my son is here, we all have breakfast together. Versus dinner, we will sit down and have breakfast, but not all the time, dinner. So that's what I do on a daily basis. I mean, we take vacations all the time too. But when I think about what I do just to preserve my own mental health and sanity, those are the things that I do on a regular basis. We also talked about just a definition of self-care. In my opinion, is very taboo these days. When you're looking at the media and looking at all the commercials and what have you, it will make you think that you have to be wealthy, or that self-care is about money, or being fabulous, or just refined. And it's not about any of those things. It can be something as simple as, taking 30 minutes to an hour and going to a park and reading. It could be as simple as taking a walk, or in my case, just having a heartfelt and meaningful, tough conversation with someone you love. Self-care comes in many forms and shapes, and it's not all physical. Most of us think of self-care in terms of the external things, like, hair and makeup and, clothing. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen many people who are well-groomed, but they really have no concept of what self-love and self-care is really all about. And in my opinion, self-love is this house that we build. We talked about that metaphor last week too. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, I want to do a little bit of a recap of what we talked about last week, so that you kind of know, you're caught up on the conversation. So the first thing we did was define self-care. And just like I said before, it's just anything you do essentially to take care of yourself. And or anything you refrain from doing to take care of yourself, because I also have to stay out of the cookie jar to be good to myself. So I don't know if I have any foodies on the call who can relate to that, but the pastries are calling me a lot of times, and I have to say no so that I can maintain good health and an optimal weight. But that's essentially what it is taking care of yourself. However you do that. For most of us, when we are good on the outside, it's supposed to be a reflection of what's on the inside. But how many times do we see people who look beautiful and gorgeous and well-groomed, like I said, on the outside, and on the inside, they're a complete mess. So, the physical aspect of it is just one aspect of four. So self-care is also broken down into 4 categories. There's spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. And physical seems to be the easiest, when you're new to the concept, because I shared last week that, I grew up in a single parent home. My mom is lower to middle class income, never made more than about $35,000 in a year. Growing up, I grew up as an only child by my mom, but my dad has many other children. But it was always tough making ends meet. So I never, ever saw my mom do anything for herself. So the concept of self-care is something that was out of reach for me, or I didn't even understand. No one had ever even spoken those words to me. It was something that I didn't come to know about until I was in maybe my late 20s, early 30s. And I never had that example. So I never even knew that it was something that I should be doing for myself. So I also want to let anyone on this call know that if this is something that is new to you, if it's foreign to you, you're not alone. And that's why we have to get together and have these kinds of conversations, because, you need to know you're not alone. You need to know that there's many of us, even when we understand what self-care is and that we should be doing it, we are still not proficient at it. It takes practice, and it takes time to get comfortable with it. You know, I always remember my mom just being so, you know, stressed about money. You know, she was just trying to survive. So, you know, working 2 to 3 jobs, you know, just to put food on the table, there's not a lot of time left to do little things for yourself. Now, back then, we didn't know that, you know, it was just a walk in the park. So I don't even know if she even knew about self-care back then. I'm pretty sure she didn't. So I want you to feel comfortable and at ease to know that, you know, I'm still learning and growing too. I consider myself to be an expert, but I'm always looking for new ways to take care of myself and honor who I am. And this whole notion that self-care is somehow selfishness, it's just not true. When we really want to be a blessing to other people, and we really want to learn how to love and how to add value to other people's lives, we first have to start with ourselves. It's ludicrous to think that we can give wholeheartedly to other people when we don't do the same thing for ourselves. You can't give what you don't have. And so when, you know, self-care is really you being kind and loving other people, because that's the doorway to being generous with other people, learning how to do it for yourself. And so that was something that took me many years to learn and to come into grips with. And I found that the more I take care of myself, the happier I am. And I tell you what, I sort of feel like this is a conversation that women have a lot. And we tend to forget that men are also human beings, and they also deserve the same opportunity and the same freedom to take care of themselves and do things to really make them happy. And I know for me, I've been married for 27 years. For those of you who don't know that, I've been in a relationship with my husband since I was 12 years old and he was 13. So we have grown up together and have seen, you know, every experience probably known to man together. And I can honestly say that I didn't always understand that he needed time for himself. And I was even very negative. Early on in our marriage, I was very resentful whenever he wanted to do things for himself. And now I've come to understand that it was because I wasn't doing what I needed to do for myself. So sometimes the resentment is when we are not being good to ourselves. We resent it when we see other people do it. Like, oh my God, you know, how great must that be to put yourself first? Well, you know, it's what we all have a right to do in life. So anyway, I asked my beloved to come on today and share some of his thoughts about self-care and about, you know, just what men think about this whole concept of self-care. So my love, are you there?
I am here. Yes, I am.
Well, I'd like for you to share a little bit about, we talked about this a lot, and you've taught me a lot of things about taking care of myself and honoring the person that I am. And so I'd just like for you to share your thoughts on this topic and how it relates to men.
No, I would love to. You know, it's for me, it's unique and it's different. And I want I think everybody who's listening, whether you're male, whether you're female, married, single, in a relationship, it doesn't matter. I believe self-care is defined. I think Earlene gave the different categories in which self-care is actually defined. And that's to bring context to this conversation. But when you look at the real application of self-care, it's different for every person. One of the things that I've come to learn is I've come to learn me, to get to know HB. Right. You would be amazed at how many people don't know themselves. And the reason they don't know themselves is they define their life and they define themselves so much by what other people who have influence in their life have defined for them. And that used to be me. You know, many people have heard me say that I wasn't, you know, I didn't become free until I was about 42 years old. You know, and someone would look at that and say, well, what do you mean? I mean, you hadn't worked a job since you were 26 and you had this type of success at 20s and this type of success at 30s and you were doing this your early 40s. How did you not become free until you were 42? And it was because of so many of the other strongholds that I didn't even know that I catered to, that other people had on me, influencers in my life, people that I may not have even met, but they had an influence in my life. And so around the age of 42 is when I started to understand how to make HP happy. There's things that I had done before make me happy, but in terms of knowing the cause and effect, what is it that how does HP operate? How does, what really makes me happy? Not what's supposed to make me happy, because many of the times when we read books and go listen to audios and even go to events, a person's telling their story and a person's telling their experience, but it doesn't always translate to say, this experience should be your experience. They're giving you an example. Now I've learned now how to dissect it and apply it to my life. And so let me talk about that for a moment. I preface that because I don't want anybody to think that what I do to make me happy is what they need to do to make them happy. The main thing is getting to know yourself. And I can tell you right now, that's the first point of self-care, is getting to know you. When I got to know me, man, I became confident. It was the first doorway to caring about me. How can you care for someone that you don't know? Just imagine if you're a caretaker. Just imagine if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're, someone who's a caretaker, and a patient comes into your room and you didn't read any charts, you didn't get to know anything about him, you just start operating. That's not self-care. That's destructive.
All right.
And so many of us, we operate on ourselves from a destructive standpoint because we have no idea who we are and what it is that we want. And what it is that makes us happy. You take a person who's 40 years old, 30 years old, 50 years old, doesn't matter. You sit them down and off the cuff, you ask them, hey, listen, what makes you happy? And if you watch the hesitancy, because they can't even describe what makes them happy. They don't know. They never thought about it. They've never said, okay, you know what, when I do this, it makes me happy. So when I started to learn about myself, I would always think, okay, well, yeah, having all of this peace time and this just time for myself, this quiet time makes me happy. No, that's what makes a lot of other people happy. My wife, she loves quiet. She wakes up in the morning and I watch her and she sits on the floor and on her nice little rug there, or she may be in the bed still and she has her audio going of her guided meditation, and that's what makes her happy. I can tell you right now, it don't make me happy. It doesn't. I operate, you know what I love? How I'm wired. And this may seem weird, but chaos for me eases me. Wow. Now, I know people saying, hold on. What do you mean? Well, it's how I'm wired. It's a function of me having a talent of being able to think, feel, and do multiple things at a time. So my life, from a chaotic standpoint, so when there's a lot going on, I'm at peace. It's why I don't do well on a vacation saying, I'm just going to lay around the house and rest. It doesn't make me happy. It's not self-care for me, but it is for her. And so what I had to realize is making me happy may frustrate the hell out of her. And so I've got to have my own environment to bring myself peace. And then once she knows what makes her happy, and as long as her happiness doesn't infringe on mine, guess what? We're going to be peaceful. But she can't stand a lot of noise going on. Man, you make my house noisy. You put a lot of people in there. You put a TV on in 8 rooms and music going on. Man, I can chill, not pay attention to any words of what's going on, but I'm at peace. Now, I'm not saying run around your house turning TVs and radios on and stuff like that. But I'm saying I learned how I operate. And I understand where it comes from. To give you some context and background, I grew up and I lived quite often with my grandmother. And my grandmother, all of the grandkids, you know, when you come from a family like ours, everybody goes to grandma's house, right? And lives there. And all of her kids, it's amazing. They can't support and take care of all their children, but grandma can take care of all the grandkids, feed them, clothe them, do whatever it is. And we lived there, went to school from there, and the house was always noisy. We lived in the projects of Tampa, Florida, and it was always something going on, sirens going on. It was noisy all the time, television's on in every room. And so I want you to imagine as a kid, how did I go to sleep? When I went to sleep at night, I never went to sleep with peace. I went to sleep with 4 or 5 different stimuli that were going on. And so for years, this is how I was able to get sleep. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just how I'm wired. And so now to take a kid who, that's how he was trained to go to sleep every night, that's what was going on. My grandmother also, to add a little to it, my grandmother was a bootlegger. And she didn't manufacture her own liquor, but she sold liquor illegally from her house for years. It was a social environment. The police came to buy liquor from her. So it was just that she just didn't have a license. And so we wake up in the morning and people were over there already waiting just to hang out. We go to bed and they're already still there. That's the environment that I come from. And Earlene was completely the opposite. She was the only child and wasn't a whole lot of activities going on. And so that's how I grew up. That's all that I knew. And so if things were not in a chaotic standpoint, it means that something was wrong. If I ever came to my grandma's house and it was quiet, it meant somebody had died. And so I give you this to kind of give you background so that you start to understand in other people's lives that certain things of self-care and what makes them happy are different. Now, so when it comes to peace and quiet, you know, I honestly thought, I thought nice pieces of property were when you bought a piece of property and the interstate was in your front yard, because that's where I come from. We would sit on the front yard and watch the traffic go by, watch every car get on the interstate. And so put me in a cul-de-sac, we're in a quiet neighborhood. I was like, that's backwards. If you look at where my mom's house is right now, I bought my mom a house. It's right across the street from Busch Gardens, one of the nicest most busiest theme parks in Tampa, Florida, because that's what I was used to. When I think about it now, I would do something a little different because I learned something different, but that's what I was used to. But along the way, I started to realize HB needed some things as well. So for me, once I realized what it is that I like, self-care for me is now also forms of learning. I love to learn. I do. I love information. And so acquiring new information, acquiring things that I may not even use, but at some point in time down the road, maybe 5 years from now, maybe something I'll learn, facts or something like that. For me, it's a way of me being able to recharge. That's more of, I would say, so from an educational standpoint. Now, reading does not relax me. Reading, I have to put a lot of effort in. Why? Because my brain works when there's a lot going on. And reading, it's you in the book. So this is why if I don't have loud music on or headphones in my ear, it's very difficult for me to comprehend what I read. I've got to have a distraction for my brain to pay attention to so that the relaxed component of my brain can now focus only on the words. It's a little different. I know some of you are thinking, man, this guy is all jacked up. No, but it's people out there like this. And what happens is our educational society has forced everybody to say, this is the way you should learn because of our school system. And it's not. And so many people are unique and different. And they're trapped in this body of being different because the world says this is how you should be. this is how you should behave or think or whatever it is. And like I said, until I became 42, I didn't exercise all of those freedoms. But when it comes to time, here's what I do know. I am by many definitions, I am I guess you would call it a top tier provider. It's what I do. My mom programmed me to be a leader and a provider. And when you are that top tier provider, there's certain things that you need to recharge. And as a man who is a top tier provider, there's a big fight that you're always in. Every man, if they go to bed at night and tell you that they don't have on their mind the security of their family, they're lying to you. No matter how much money you have, no matter how successful you get, it's a constant thought protecting and providing for your family. And that's my most dominant thought throughout the night, throughout the day, is providing and protecting for my family. And so I realize that sometimes I have to get a break from the fight. What do I do to get a break from the fight? Sometimes I need to just hang out with my boys. Okay. Now, what I realize in my self-care, I've got different categories of relationships with people that I have, and they all serve a completely different purpose. I can tell you, but before Johnny and Crystal became a part of our business, Johnny and Crystal was probably the most reliable source of connecting, and that was for Earlene and I together, because we wanted to hang out with someone, number one, who didn't need anything from us, number two, who had similar issues as we had, so that when we got together, we never had to talk about the issues, because we knew we provided a break from them. I didn't have someone who was going to be talking to me about network marketing and how to do this in network marketing, how to do that in network marketing. And so I needed someone who had answered a lot of my questions, and I had answered a lot of their questions as well. And so I realized I need to sometimes be with those people. I recognize as well that sometimes I need to be with my childhood buddies. Some people say, well, you become a grown man, you should move past that. Well, I in some ways, yes, but I've got a group of buddies of mine that we've been friends ever since we were some of us since we were 6 years old. I mean, since we were actually 9 years old, and then some of us we got together during junior high and high school, and twice a year we get together. And it's not about going down memory lane, but for me, because of the circle that I'm in, why do I need it? I'll tell you why I need it. I need them more than they need me. Because when I'm around other people, typically I'm Mr. Bugs, or there's something that somebody wants from me. This doesn't mean that they have a bad agenda. Because most people recognize me and treat me based off of the money that I make, not based off the person that I am. Oh, well, he's a this. So they take my title, and they take what people think is so important, the socioeconomic things, the money and all of this, and they treat me accordingly. See, those guys don't. See, to them, I'm cool with. That was my name, my little nickname back in high school. They don't even understand the success that I have. It doesn't matter to them. They don't placate to me, and they don't put me first just because of whatever it is. If we're riding somewhere, driving, and I don't call shotgun, I got to sit in the back seat. And I need that, because here's what it does. It allows me to remain humble and understand some of the important things in life as well. So I have that set of friends. And when we get together, we have a lot of fun. But for me, it's cathartic for me. It's that reminder for me. And then on the other end, I've got a group of friends that are much more successful than I am. And when I hang out with them, and they've got their own planes, and one of my buddies just bought I think it was a $12 million helicopter. Okay. And we talk, 2 or 3 times a week that we talk. Well, but when I get with them, it's self-care for me. Why? Because now HB the dreamer comes out again. You know, I get together with my other friends that are in business as well, that I have that are here in business, and that's important for me as well, being able to break away. And what I've learned is, I learned that the more, you know, I love investing and spending time with my wife. I do. But I learned and I realized I'm not a woman. She's not a man. And I thought, well, you know what? Every ounce that I'm not with my friends, I need to be with my wife. No, that's not going to be the case. Okay. And I realized that sometimes I just needed to be alone. Why? You know, because I needed to recuperate from the war. What do I mean, the war? I'm talking about that struggle that men deal with every single day. I recognize that the majority of the time, and here's one of the things I'll tell you if you're in a relationship, and I'll pass it on over because I want this to be more conversational as well. But one of the things I learned as well is, and you'll probably recognize this, ladies, the majority of the times that you get into an argument with your spouse is during transition time. And what is transition time? Transition time is when your husband, your boyfriend, or whoever is switching hats from maybe the warrior at work or at the office, or being the CEO, or being the executive, or being the whatever it is. And now he comes home and he has to transition into whatever it is, the other hat that he needs to put on. And sometimes we don't recognize it. Men don't even know how to communicate it sometimes. But that little transition time, because maybe the expectation of him to be this or that, or have conversation, or how was your day, and you're expecting something more than, oh, it was good. You know, that transition time I recognize is real important. So when I come home, here's what I need. I need 15 minutes to transition, sometimes 30. Why? Depend on how much I had to do in the war that day. Because I don't just turn it off. I can't be this warrior leader and turn off my general status at the drop of a hat and turn into, you know, Fluffy the love husband. That just it just doesn't work that way. Or even turn into, you know, my dad the hero. That I've got to have some transition time in between. And sometimes it's vice versa, going from work, coming from the gym, going to the gym, having a conference call, getting off of a conference call, or whatever things that you're doing. Even when I'm coming back from recreation, give me some transition time to transition into what it is that I've got to be next, because that little moment in time, that is my self-care time, so that I could transition and be who I need to be for the household or for whoever's around me. But and all in all, self-care is identified by me are the things that I understand that allow me to operate at my optimum performance. And it's so many different things that I do, and I haven't even gotten to some of those things, but I want to turn it back over to you. And I don't know if there's any questions or whatever it is, or for some dialogue that you've got, Earlene, so you could give me some, you know, give me some direction or whatever it is. But I just wanted to kind of set more of a foundation.
Okay. Well, what we talked about last week, by the way, that was amazing. You said so many things, and I was sitting here and I didn't have my notes, so I had to run and get some paper to write some things down. But last week we talked about a metaphor of a house, and my thoughts on that is, your life is this house that you build.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're looking to build a house, you go and find a piece of land. So that dirt is your spiritual foundation. Because like I said before, self-care is made up of 4 different things: the spiritual, the physical, the mental, the emotional. So the spiritual is the dirt. The foundation of the house is your self-love. Self-love has 4 components as well. And you kind of hit on the first one, which is self-awareness. So that was a big part of what you talked about, just knowing what makes you tick, what you need, what you don't need, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. And, the thing of, I feel like a lot of people just aren't self-aware. And so to embark upon a self-care routine and not know who you are or what you need, is really ludicrous. And I think last week Fran hit on that a lot, where she talked about how, shopping for her is not a safe haven. This is not my self-care time. I don't get my energy from that. Whereas me, my safe haven is the mall. And so, but I just wanted to touch on, I wanted to see how you felt about the 4 things that establish the self-love. The first one was self-awareness. The second one was self-worth. And for me, self-worth is just your belief about yourself, like how you see yourself, the good things, essentially. Because I think most of us do this hustle in life thinking that we have to earn worthiness, and we don't understand that it's a given. It's already there. It's constant. It's not tied to your accomplishments or what other people think of you. That was another thing that he said that I thought was so key, that, there are so many things about the way that we see ourselves that we have to unlearn to essentially learn how to take care of ourselves good.
Right.
And so the third thing is self-esteem, and really self-worth and self-esteem go hand in hand, but self-esteem is more about your accomplishments. It's more about, the value that you bring to a situation, those qualities that make you who you are. And I feel like the better your self-worth gets, the better your self-esteem gets. It's kind of hand in hand. But on the other hand, self-worth is just knowing that regardless of my accomplishments or regardless of my failures, I'm still worthy. That is a big part. That's a big part.
I think it is a big part. I think they're interchangeable. If I was to look at self-worth, I will look at self-worth as in self-worth and self-esteem. You're right. There are 2 different things in my picture. The self-worth component would be understanding the value that I bring to any situation, and that may be the relationship. Okay, so for example, some people, let's just say that you have some people who grew up, who come together in a relationship, and sometimes people can't quantify the value that they're going to bring to the relationship,
right?
And they misquantify because maybe one person brings the finances. Maybe it's the guy who brings the finances. And sometimes you'll have a woman who may not feel as worthy because she depends on him for finances. Well, from how we run our household and our beliefs, that's not defining your self-worth, because I don't need you, Earlene, to bring in any money. Okay? Because it's not because there's just, we have an abundance of it, but I learned something a long time ago, that if you're bringing the same thing I'm bringing, why do I need you? Now, if you have to, because of our circumstances, there's nothing wrong with 2 households bringing in income at all. But that's not what I needed from you. So your value and your worth has no diminishing value because you don't bring in income.
Right.
And so understanding that here's what I bring to the whole, here's what I bring, to whatever. As a man, I look at my self-worth as, what is my contribution to the world? Well, I can't do everything, but I do know what my worth is. What am I going to bring? What's going to be my contribution to the world? As a group, it may be you in a group. You're part of a group. What's your value? What's your self-worth to the group? Do you understand who you are and the value that you bring to the group? And then self-esteem to me is really about a belief system. And I don't really believe self-esteem is how you see yourself. I believe self-esteem is how you believe others see you and how it affects you. Okay? Because we do quite a bit of things when we have a lower self-esteem, and that is we think other people think lower of us, or I have a high self-esteem. I think other people think highly of me. And that is really important when it comes to self-care as well, because if I know that my self-worth is high, if I know that the value that I bring even to this call here, if I'm going to be on the call, it's two types of people that's going to be in every situation, a contributor and a receiver.
Right.
Okay. So do I know what my worth is? Do I feel that? Do I feel that my experiences and the way that I communicate, somebody's going to walk away with something great? Do I also, from a self-esteem standpoint, believe that the people on this call believe what I'm talking about and can follow my lead? So that's the self-esteem part. And I do think it's important to have self-worth, because if I know that I've got to make a contribution to this call, guess what I got to do? I got to go out. I've got to go out there, and I've got to make sure that I take care of me. Why? If I don't take care of me, the value that I bring to society as a whole
is diminished.
Right. It won't be multiplied. So the self-worth is really important. The self-esteem is just as important.
And then the self-care was the last one we were talking about. I want to make sure they get this for their notes. So we were talking about self-love and the 4 components of self-love. The first one is self-awareness. The second one is self-worth. The third is self-esteem. And then the fourth is self-care. So the thing with self-care, in my opinion, like I said, it's just whatever you do to take care of yourself and to nurture yourself. I feel like the conversation of the 4 things, the self-care, in my opinion, is the easiest. And if you are someone who grew up in a household where self-care was never modeled, I think starting with self-care, starting with taking care of yourself, is a way to start to build the other things. For example, last week I gave the analogy of Jet. Remember, you bought Jet for Trey. He was our first dog, a boxer, and we had him for 12 and a half years. And it was a present for Trey for making straight A's when he was 10. And I was deathly afraid of dogs. It was bad. And of course, we got him as a puppy. He was 10 weeks old when we got him. And through the process of having to take care of him, I learned to love him. And then I overcame my fear of dogs. And I feel like self-love is the same process.
Right.
When you're struggling with the self-awareness, when you're struggling with the self-esteem, when you're struggling with the self-worth, self-care is your doorway to all of those things. You may have to do it in the reverse, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, when I look at the self-love, because if you said that self-care was the 4th one, and the self-love ties to it, for me, I would identify self-love is the removal of judgment on yourself.
That's big.
Okay. Because how could I love you and judge you at the same time? It's difficult.
Right.
And that's just another person. So how could I love myself? See, we are our biggest judge, because see, we know all of our own hidden secrets. We know the things that nobody else knows about that we've done. And guess what we do? We judge ourselves for it every single time. And that's why you're right. All of this ties in, because that leads back to low self-evaluation or low self-worth, because I'm judging myself based off of what I did in the past, what I didn't do, my failures, what I did, this relationship that didn't do, this business I started, it didn't go so well. And I should have done this, I should have done that, or I should have been a better husband, I should have been a better wife, and I'm judging myself on this. And so I can't I can't bring the best person forward in the future because I'm still penalizing a person that doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
And I'm judging. And so it's real hard to take care of yourself because you're consistently judging yourself. And so I just don't. And I've learned, from a self-love standpoint, that I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, but it is a practice, as she said. It's a practice. I didn't get here of self-care, of taking care of myself. And just like, what was it, yesterday or 2 days ago, I went and got my manicure, pedicure. I do it every week. I have me 1 to sometimes 2 massages per week. This is not a factor of, well, you got a lot of money. This is a matter of priority.
Right. Because we can find money for what we want to do.
We can find, listen, if I had to make a choice between having an expensive pair of shoes and getting my and having taken care of getting my manicure pedicure, I'm getting manicure and pedicure. Mm-hmm. I can get those things, or getting me a massage. Why? I realize that when I take care, we take care of so many other things. Mm-hmm. We do. Specifically, man, when we're coming up, we have a car or a bicycle or whatever it is, and we spend all kind of money taking care of things on the outside, but we never do it for ourselves. And I start to realize that the priority needs to be on me. I'm the one who does the work to buy the car. The car doesn't do the work to buy me. Right. I'll give you another thing of self-care. Okay. It may sound a little different, but it's important. Many of you right now, one of the things that I know everybody who on this call does, whether you male or female, you sleep. And some of you are sleeping on a pillow that costs $10. You lay your head on a $10 pillow, but you'll get a $400 hair job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're sleeping on the cheapest mattress that you could find every night, okay? But when you go vacation, you'll spend $600 a night on a room. And I'm like, hold on for a second. One thing that's going to happen until I die is I'm going to go to sleep. Here's self-care. I'm going to make sure that we have the best quality sleep from the best type of mattress that we can actually get.
Wow.
Not just because it's expensive, but let me take care of me. I'm going to make sure that if I put my head on a pillow, it's not going to be one of these, one of these pillows that I used to sleep on when I was a kid. So it's a lot of things that are really important to me, very important to me, that have nothing to do with the external appearance of self-care or success or wealth or whatever it is. It's just real simple stuff like that. Making sure that if I'm going to buy food, I'm going to buy high quality ingredients. Okay? Let me put the best inside of me. I was talking to my doctor, and he said, we were talking about the difference of eating beef and stuff like that, because he says, oh yeah, you hear a lot about what beef is bad for you, or this is bad for you. And he is a very high-end nutritionist, and he's just one of these genius guys, right? He's a naturopathic doctor as well. He says, HB, I want you to know this. He says, I don't have a problem with you eating beef. And he says, well, why? I said, well, why is that, doc? He says, yeah. He said, well, when we talk about beef, we talk about it in the general sense of what most people eat. He says, I'm certain that you get some of the highest quality cuts of beef when you do. He says, those studies are not based on that type of beef. It's based off of the stuff that you'll find in the McDonald's burgers and all of that kind of stuff. And that's not the stuff that I eat. I abstain from eating bad foods. That's self-care. And I eat high quality foods. It's not about being bougie. It's about taking care of myself. Why would you put the highest grade of octane in your car, 93 octane, but not put it in your own body?
Right. Right.
So you can self-care in so many different ways. It's not about just relaxation. It's about how if your body was a Rolls Royce, which is more valuable than that, how would you treat it? Mm-hmm. I watch people who have a chance to drive one of my cars, whether they maybe moving it or just me, or maybe we're driving around, or let them sit in and drive it, and they take more care of my cars than they do themselves, than they do their own cars. Why? Because of self-worth. My car is not as valuable as HB's Rolls Royce, so let me drive 20 miles slower in his car than I will in my car. But your life is just as valuable as mine.
And your body.
Your body is. And so in so many ways, we have things so twisted, and we put so many things way up here that shouldn't be way up here. You know, because I'm going to drive your car regardless of what it is, just like I drive mine. Because I understand what's most important. So you got to realign things, reassess, and like you said, you have to get that, you know, that self-esteem right, that self-worth right, that self-love and that self-care right, and understand who you are, and realign your priorities before you can self-care. Because otherwise, you'll be taking care of other things, thinking you're taking care of yourself.
Right. And then you don't realize that when you don't learn how to nurture yourself, you think that you're putting other people first, and you're doing all these things for other people, but you're doing it from a deficit.
Yeah.
And it's not as, when you don't learn how to accept yourself, you're really not accepting other people.
Right.
Everything starts with you. And you know, and the challenge with putting other people first is that you teach them that you're last.
Oh man.
And that's
and I can tell you like this, ladies, I'll tell you this. There is nothing sexier to a man than to see his woman spoil herself and take care of herself. I'm not talking about, you know, just the external shopping and all that stuff. The sexiest thing in the world to a man is to watch his woman make sure she puts herself first.
Wow.
I'm being very candid here. All this, well, let me just, you know, let me just kind of sacrifice and let me put on 6-year-old pajamas because I'm gonna make sure. All right, you can if you want to. Well, you know, I'm gonna skip this refill this month right here and let the nails grow out a little bit. I'm gonna save. All right, you can do that if you want to. I'm telling you, it's when I watch, and this has nothing to do with money. Now we know that, you know, nails aren't free. It has to do with self-worth. What value does your taking care of yourself have in the relationship? And it has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with it. If you are married specifically to a very strong providing man, he wants to see that happen.
Yeah, that's why you're working so hard,
That's
right?
right. Yeah. It makes fighting the war worth it. It makes fighting the war worth it. When I see her meditate, that doesn't cost anything. I love it. That's sexy to me. She's taking care of herself. When I see her say, hey, I've got a nail appointment, I've got a hair appointment, I've got to go get a massage, I'm going to get stretched, I'm going to get this, I got to take care of this, or I'm going for my walk and I'm doing this, and it's for her. Love it. I love it. I do.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I want to hear from I'm pretty sure we have some people on the moderator line that have a lot of questions for you. If you guys are out there, we don't want to just talk. I'd love for you guys to be able to ask Colton some questions. So, you know, chime in. Does anybody have any questions thus far? Don't be shy, you guys.
Hey, this is Francesca. Hey, Holton.
Hey, friend.
Hi, honey.
Hi, Miss Earlene. Boo.
If any of you watching on Zoom has a question, just let me know and I'll unmute my line on Clubhouse and then allow you to talk through the line. Just let me know.
Like, we chit chat amongst women, and we have mentors that we look up to, and we have questions that we have for other women that are in the positions that we want to be in, but we don't necessarily hear it from a different perspective. So I appreciate that Holton had the had to carve out the time to be on this call today because it's important. We need to hear it from not just women, we need to hear it from men as well. So thank you, Mr. Holtenberg.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I think
Absolutely.
you're right too, Fran, because perspective is everything. And sometimes, well, most of the time as women, we are nurturers by nature, and we are so quick to sacrifice everything, even the essence of ourselves for our family. You know, it's not even a question. But the thing that I love about what Holton said is what is sexy to a man. I mean, we're thinking we're doing the right thing because we're letting go everything. He's saying, no.
That's exactly where I was listening the most.
Mhm.
Yeah, guys, let's keep it. Can we keep it real? You know, I don't like to get on. You know me. I don't like to get on calls and sugarcoat stuff. When a man looks at a woman, you think he's all right. You got 12 women. You're at the mall. 12 women walking his way. You think he's looking at the one who don't have herself together?
No, probably not. Or maybe in pity. I don't know.
No. Trust me. His eyes are connect. Men are visual. He is connect. He can tell you all the stuff that he wants. Okay. Well, no, it's all about the heart and the love hogwash. It's not about that. I'm telling you, the attraction is going to come from a physical person. If they're telling you something else, they're lying or they're embarrassed to tell you. It's going to be the physical. How have you packaged yourself? Now, hopefully you've got a great attitude. Hopefully you've got a lot of other things that go along with that as well, because that's a part of it as well. But you know, it's always what I want you to understand this. I'm not saying that you have to compete for your man's attention, but I am saying in your mind, that's what it should be. It should be, I know that I've got to compete for his attention, and I'm always going to make sure I grab it. And more often than not. I'm not saying every single day. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm letting you know that when you start to let that slide, that it becomes unsexy. No matter how great your heart is. When my wife dresses up, I go up there sometimes and she's in her closet and she ain't going nowhere. She's just trying on different. It's like a little kid who's 3 years old going in her mommy's closet and just trying on stuff. That's what my wife does that like weekly. It's sexy to me. Why? Because I know she's practicing looking her best. Whether it's for her, I don't care who it's for. I ain't asking all them questions. You know what I know? I know I love it.
Well, I mean, it's for me. I mean, I want to look great. I just like to dress up.
I'm being honest. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care who it's for. I don't. And so, you know, so you taking care of yourself, and it has nothing to.
Honey, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Am I here? Okay. All right. Somebody called it. I was trying to cancel the call and I answered it. But it has nothing to do with, like I said, the cost of the outfit or whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. I mean, many of you seen her do, you know, even her little Instagrams on looks for less than $200. Okay. But it doesn't matter. But when she just does her, men are visual. When you do your best to look your best, you know, and it stimulates the interest in the relationship. It does. And taking care of yourself and treating yourself well and making sure, you know, that things are even around the house look well. That's the thing I love. When I come, it's not that the size of my house, it's the attention that my wife pays to the detail to say, I want this to look nice. Yeah. But here's the thing, she did it when we were broke. So money is no excuse.
Right. It was just stuff from Home Goods and Marshalls.
Yeah, that's right. Money was no excuse. And so that's, you know, this is not, we just happen to be on this subject. There's a bunch of subjects we could talk about. We just happen to be talking about self-care. And I'm giving it to you from a man's perspective, especially when there's a woman involved. Yeah, it matters.
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad to hear you say that. And I'm glad to hear you say that it's not just about money. It's definitely about intention. And,
Yeah.
you know, whatever level socioeconomically you're on, you can find a way to do self-care so that it counts. I mean, we were in a place at one point where I had to do my own hair. I mean, but I did it, and I did my best to look as good as I could at the level that I was on. And now I have a lot more resources to work with, and more exposure. So that helps. But this matters. And I just, you know, a lot of times we do take ourselves for granted, and we think that this is not a big deal, but it truly is. Now, we are not saying that what's on the outside is more important than the inside, because, you know, we just discussed that self-care is about spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. It's, you know, the physical part of it is only 25%. So the other emphasis has to go on the person that you are. But you know, because we've been, I mean, you just think about some houses you've been in. Real big, pretty house. On the outside, you get in, it's no furniture. Or real big, pretty house, and you've got everything you can imagine in this house, but there's no love there.
Right.
So you know, it's about the whole person. It's not just about one piece over the other, but they're all interconnected.
Yeah, because the goal is to complete the Rubik's Cube.
Right.
You know, because you hear people make excuses and say, well, I don't need to do all this because we love each other so much. We got so much love, and I love her, and she loves me, and she don't ever have to dress up for me because her heart and spirit is gone. All right. He's telling you that. He's looking at every other woman. Well, I know he's gonna look at my wife when she walks by. He's not gonna let her pass by and say, man, my wife's hot. No, he's looking. That's how I'm just telling you the nature of a man. Let's keep it real. You gotta have all parts of it. Now, same thing can happen. You have a woman who looks good on the outside, horrible, nasty attitude. That ain't gonna fly either. And it's the same thing for guys as well. We gotta have all the components as well. We can't just be the provider and be controlling. We can't just be the provider and don't have compassion, and don't show love, and don't show support, and don't show the cooperation. You gotta have all the sides of the Rubik's Cube to solve it. And so don't buy into that philosophy of, well, we got this. You know, it's like people say, well, we ain't got no money, but we happy. I hate when people say stuff like that. We broke, but we happy. No, you need some money too. Why can't you be happy and have some money? You know, so let's get all of them working together, because you can do that.
Do we have any comments out there? Anybody want to chime in?
Can I chime in? This is Adriana in the bottom corner of the stage.
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome to the call.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be a part of the conversation, and this has been super impactful. And the one thing I wanted to add is that very spot on what's been said about self-care. And I learned through several chapters of my life that was going to manifest itself into higher levels of achievement that I truly wanted. So quick backstory, I'm a mom to 4 kids. I'm a special needs mom. I'm an autism mom to 3, and they came from my first marriage that lasted 7 years. We were not each other's best fit, and it was a dark chapter going through that. I felt all kinds of feelings of, you know, being alone, having to walk this journey, and then I had a tragedy happen, and I remember working through that. It just really had to get to a moment where I took a long, hard look at myself and what all I added to the table. And it was a painful process, but it was very necessary, because I realized at some point along the way, I lowered my own bar, and I was compromising my own deal breakers, and I was just settling. But I wouldn't necessarily say it was my marriage. I was settling in every aspect of my life. So as a single mom, I made that commitment to myself that, you know what, I'm going to raise the bar. And being in the fitness industry, I was able to challenge working on me, as I was able to intertwine it with what I was doing. So I streamlined that part of work, but I began to take advantage of the opportunity to improve on what I could. And that as long as I got real with myself, you know, it was going to be okay, as long as I did my own call to action. And in doing so, I remember started dating again, and it was a little awkward, but when I started to continue to honor what my boundaries were, honor my deal breakers, up level myself, what I needed to take care of me to the best of my ability, asking for help in my support system when I needed it, using my voice, fighting for that balance, being okay with seeking out the things that could allow me to be a better person. I love, Holden, what you said about the massages and the being able to, you know, do the things that are more maintenance and that are truly not luxury. And I was able to be in a position where I met my now husband, my boundaries and standards where I needed for them to be. We've been married over 5 years. Luckily, my ex-husband and we became better friends than where we were when we were married. And I'm where I am today because I towed my own line and I valued myself, and I knew that self-care was something I needed to embrace with everything that I had. This is Adriana Dunn speaking.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else want to share?
I think that's awesome. I want to comment on that. I think it's awesome to hear that story because, you know, what that is an example of is people will treat you based on the self-worth that you display.
Right.
And that's the same in the relationship. I want you to imagine walking into a house and you are a guest and you're staying there as a guest. And when you walk in, there's dishes everywhere, there's laundry everywhere, the beds weren't made up. You know, it was representative of a house that you can tell nobody cares. And I want you to imagine you being a guest when you finish eating, and if you saw everybody else, you know, just leave their food everywhere, you probably kind of follow suit. You know, when it was time for you to depart, you probably follow suit and not straighten the entire room up. You probably leave it the way they said, this is who I am. But what if you were the opposite? And what if you walked into a house and you were a guest and it was immaculate and you couldn't find anything out of place, and you were a guest and you were on your way out and you've been there 3 days? You probably make the bed up because you found it made up and all the beds were made up. You probably make sure that there's no dishes that you had that were still out. You make sure everything's in place. And these are physical things that necessarily don't matter when it comes in the grand scheme of things, but people are going to treat you the same way. And so if you are tidied up and taken care of and have a representation that I am a well cared for person, they're going to treat you like a well cared for person. And that's going to be your friend. That's going to be your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is. They're going to treat you the way that they think you, the way that they think you treat yourself. So I love that story. Thanks, Adriana.
Why don't we go to Crystal? Crystal, I know that you're on the line, and I'd really love to hear from you. I mean, I know you're a mom of 3, and you know, you have to deal with Johnny, who is your 4th child.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on what we've been talking about? Because I mean, I know, you're such a beautiful lady and well taken care of. And I've watched you be good to yourself for a number of years. I'd love to have your feedback.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for opening the platform to me. And I think what Holton just said was such a great analogy about Adriana as a home. It's so true. The vibe, you go somewhere, you kind of follow suit to what you see. And I never thought about applying it to ourselves. And so it's like you train people how to treat you.
Right.
And so I love her testimony, how she just decided to rise in the midst of, being a mother of four. I'm sitting here like, wow. And even of children autism. And I know I have a son, he's high functioning too, and that's a whole new world. That was a whole new world for me. And it's great, but I know it's just different alternative than raising a child that doesn't come under the umbrella of autism. So I have a family of 5. I'm a 5th, and I'm full all the time. I feel like from the moment I wake up in the morning. And it's so funny because when you talk about your moment that you have in the morning, your meditation and your prayer, and I remember asking, I was like, you do that? I'm like, wow, that sounds so pleasant. I can't even imagine, because from the moment my feet touch the floor and get out of bed, I'm on. Mm-hmm. However, I have decided, and I've been intentional about I call it doses of self-care, because I have no problem with the high maintenance. I call myself high maintenance with the lashes and the nails. That's all. I got that unlocked. I've had that for years. And, that is the stuff that we automatically think about, the spa appointments, even my, lunch with my girlfriends, the shopping. Yeah, that is self-care. And what I begin to really, it is deeper than that. It's actually things that I didn't label as self-care, but it's stuff that I do for myself. And because those things sometimes, those require appointment, right, ladies? You got to wait Tuesday at 3:00. Sometimes you need it on demand. Right. Sometimes you just need a moment right there and then, and that doesn't involve a pedicure. You can't just go run and get a pedicure. So this is what I've done, little things. I used to did not like car lines. So my son gets out at 2:50, and you have the overachiever parents, that's what I used to call them, the ones that are in the line at 2:00. And so the line gets really long. So I'm always been that parent that'll come I'm like maybe one of the embarrassing most, the one maybe the nurse that's here to come. I would plan like my errands and do everything I had to do until the last minute was time. And I think someone's not on mute.
I just needed them.
Okay. So with that, I discovered that I love to read, but I do not read that much. Only time I read is when I'm on the airplane.
Mm-hmm. Crystal, we lost you. I think maybe you're on mute.
No, she's not muted. She may have a bad connection.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes,
I discovered this year, I absolutely love the car line. First of all, my son Honor, he likes being one of the first kids picked up. So I stopped everything I'm doing, and that's my me time. I sit in that car line for a good maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and I read. I'm locked down, I'm waiting, and that's my me time. And I never thought that I would even want to sit. I was like, that's never gonna be me, one of those moms sitting waiting for my child to get home. That's my
Crystal, you're going in and out.
It has a task of something from my kids to my husband. I'm like on demand. Like there's always something to be done. Yeah. So little things like that. That's one thing that and it's like I don't think that I labeled it that, but I just thought I'm gonna do this for myself. So I think I feel like it's those like intentional things that we can do, because we're always pulled different directions, and there's always something to be done, and that's my way of multitasking. I'm getting my son on time. I'm sitting in that line, but I'm actually getting some really good reading in while I'm waiting. And I really enjoyed it this year. So that's just more one of the things. I know that I declared to myself two years ago about protecting my peace. I said I am going to protect my peace. And that's part of my self-care. And sometimes self-care is not what you're doing, it's what you're not gonna do.
Exactly. And what you don't allow, right?
Exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. A certain phone call, a certain conversation, confrontation. I choose my battles, and that protects my peace. And that's self-care in itself. So that's a declaration that I did make to myself about 2 years ago. And I have been intentional about just being having a sound mind at any expense as much as I can control it. You know,
Right.
not saying that nothing, things do still happen. But that's something I just wanted to share with you. Oh, and let me, so ladies, let me, in Holton, two ladies. So I want to share something with you. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I follow this on Instagram, and it's like this mommy's page. And I was like, that is so true. If anybody can attest it. So it said, there was a quote, it said, sit in your car outside your house is self-care. I can't explain it.
Oh my God, yes.
You know. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is, but I pull up, I can sit in my car and just have a moment of silence and just think. And it is so soothing.
Crystal, I think that sitting in your car when you pull up to your house, it allows for transition time to take place.
Yes, the transition you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it allows it. I'm telling you, when high functioning people who do a whole lot of stuff, and I don't have a routine. I don't. I just don't operate out of routine. So some people say, I just want to come shadow you and watch your routine. I'm like, you're going to confuse yourself. So me, I do a lot by feel. Some things I have as a routine because they're forced, but when you do a whole lot, juggle a lot, we have multiple different companies that we own and run different things. We are so much to so many different people, but that's just the life that we chose, and we're not special because of it. It's just the life that we chose. So we're mentors, we're friends, business coaches, and all of this kind of stuff all over the place. So when I pull into my driveway, I got to start that shift. So I know what you mean. I'm shifting from, I'm taking off one uniform and I'm about to go in the house and put a different one on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can say this, I didn't always understand. I didn't always understand that shift. And even now, hearing you explain it the way that you have, I mean, I think I have a new level of understanding because, women are so good at wearing so many hats. I mean, we can do 10 things at once. And men just don't operate like that. When you're being CEO, you're CEO. When you're being a husband, you're being a husband. And so I think even just the acknowledgement of that is growth for me, understanding that you need that transition time. Because I know sometimes you would be sitting out in your car and I'm like, why are you sitting outside? Like, can you come in the house, please? But David, I see that you're on the call. David Guilty, I know that you and your wife spoke up last time, and now you've had an opportunity to hear from Holton. I'd like some of your feedback.
Well, yeah, I didn't want Mr. Holton Buzz to be the only man speaking up, and I'm just, first of all, thank you again for allowing me to speak. And the one thing I can say, there's so many things. That transition time that you talked about, Mr. Bugs, man, right on time. Because when you're in warrior mode, you're in protective mode, it's kind of hard to shift. And sometimes you don't have your coat off, you still got that shield on. It's hard to make those, Right. But I just want to say that thank you once again, both of you, for just being those leaders, giving us a platform beyond the money. And people can't say you make these principles inside of you before you got the money. So I love the fact that you always touch on that, both of you touch on what you was doing beforehand, because I celebrate the both of you for what you have when you see it on Instagram, when y'all doing y'all thing. That makes me feel good and I want to step my game up for my own self-care, getting your feet done and manicures. And men, we need to take care of ourselves. And once again, I'm gonna back you up with this. Yes, men, we are very visual. We love when our ladies take care of themselves. I love when I see the ladies on the team take care of themselves. I had a mom, I looked at my mom when she was here, how she took care of her, then she stopped taking care of herself. So that is very important because she was a leading woman in the household. And one thing what I love what you two are doing for us, and I tell the team all the time, you're going to get yourself back. We are the PRIB. You're going to get yourself back with this company. I thank you for your principles and what y'all bringing to this world, not just this team.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, David. Yeah. Absolutely.
Carissa, honey, Carissa wants to say something. Carissa, are you there?
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Holton and Earlene Bug. I just want to thank you guys for letting me speak. Let me tell you, just over this transition in this past year and 2 years of being in the business and just hearing you guys speak and all of the women empowerment that you've given, my self-care is on a whole nother level. Like my self-care has literally, it's my daily peace. And it's the simplest thing. For me, I started doing just a facial cleanse. I got into looking into skincare and all that. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should just try it. I never had acne or nothing, but I got kids going into teenage years. So I want to find good products for them to go into. And it has been everything. And the way that your metaphors are set up for everything has just been amazing to me. I have put the building a house metaphor out there on so many platforms. It's not even funny. I completely agree with Mr. Bugs when he said that you need different friends for different things, because I have certain friends that are there to teach me, and I have friends that are there that are just my peace of mind. I have one friend, if I'm going to jump over the edge, I call her and she talks me back. I just appreciate the both of you for everything, and I just want you to know that the work that you're doing is definitely going through all of us, especially me and my family.
Oh, you're welcome, love. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Anybody else want to chime in?
I kind of wanted to piggyback on what Crystal was saying. She refreshed my memory with that car line, because car line is life. I need my car line. Car line is definitely a time to listen to music and just zone out before the kids get out of school. That was definitely a nice reminder, Ms. Crystal. And I also wanted to point out how there's certain things that she does for self-care that are just mandatory, that just comes with the package. As far as her nails, like she brushed it off, but I caught on. She brushed it off like, those are things that I just do on the regular. No, that's still self-love, and it's still self-care, and it's because it's mandatory makes it even more powerful. Like there's no negotiation. My nails, my lashes, they got to be done. So I think that was pretty dope as well. Another thing that she mentioned that not that I consider, but that I've been actually doing is there's certain people that can't be in your life. That is also self-care. Having to cut people out of your life. It's not just what you do for yourself on the physical, or when you walk down the street, or when you go for the car lines or the spas. It's also who's in your life. Right. So if you've got somebody that's toxic, like you spoke about earlier, we are the nurturers. We are the ones that, the females, we tend to be like, oh, but she's just like that. You just gotta care for her because of it. No, sometimes there needs to be a level of cut off, and it doesn't have to be completely. Some people you do have to cut off completely, but some people you just gotta be like, okay, love from a distance kind of deal. And that's also self-care. So those are three things that I got from Crystal's talk. So thank you.
Yeah, I love what you said there, because, like we talked about last week, who are we allowing to take up space in this home that we're building? And if you are someone that I wouldn't invite to my house, your opinion doesn't count in my life. When Holton talked earlier about we worry more, that self-esteem is about how other people see us. And we don't realize how much impact and access we give people who really don't deserve it. And you're wondering, why do I feel so low and so drained and so exhausted? It's because I'm giving time to people who have not learned how to appreciate what I bring to the table and me as a person. I've had to do those things recently in my life. Within the last couple of years, I've had to cut some people off. The people that I spend my time with and I allow to speak into my life are people who encourage me and uplift me and want to see me be the highest and best version of myself. Not people who every chance they get, they want to criticize me and put me down and just make me small because they're not happy with who they are. And so I feel like that whole self-care thing is we have to realize sometimes we're the negative person. When we're not taking care of ourselves, it comes out in the way that we treat other people. And we are not able to treat other people better than what we're willing to treat ourselves. So thank you for that, Fran. You guys are amazing. I love these comments. Anybody else? Honey, what were you saying? Somebody in the queue?
Yeah, we got people waiting to ask you questions in the queue. If you want me to go there and open it up for them.
Oh yeah, how do you do that? Where do you see that?
You just go right down to see where the hand raised. You got 3 questions there. I can do it for you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hey there, Lady E. Hey there, Mr. HB. How are you? This is Kim Bean.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, before y'all release that line, let me chime in, please. I want to piggyback on what Christelle said, and then also have a question for Mr. HB. And I never really realized that was self-care. I would take the boys to school and then come back home and just sit in the car for a little bit and just kind of woosah. And that is most definitely self-care, because now I get a chance to just sit and just meditate in whatever I'm going through at that moment. So thank you for pointing out that is part of self-care. Maybe I'll spend a little bit more extra time sitting in the car. And then also for Mr. HB, there are men on the line, and then there are women on the line that are going through this scenario. Both my husband and I have been truly blessed to be under the guidance and coaching and mentorship of the both of you. And we've watched your walk of life from different aspects, from business to how you take care of your household, to as a role as a husband, as a role as a wife, as role as parents, and we've been truly blessed. For those people that are out there that are not in the relationship that is how you guys view things, you made a statement, Mr. HB, that the sexiest thing to a man is a woman taking care of herself. Now, there are the men that are out there that don't see it the way you see it. Number one is a 2-part question. Number one, have you always had that perspective? And number 2, if you did not, how did you switch over to that perspective? Or if you've always had that perspective, what advice can you give to those that are on the line to be able to accept or move forward in the position that they're in, as far as not being that sexy person that they see because their spouse don't feel that they need to do that self-care?
Great. You know what? I think that's a very, very good question. And a very good point to bring up. And here's the truth of it. Every man, and when I say every, I'm overgeneralizing. So that doesn't mean 100%, but I'm talking about men overall. We all see it as sexy. However, there's going to be a percentage of men who see it as sexy, and also they're going to resent it at the same point. And the purpose of the resentment is going to be because of something else that's going on either in himself or the relationship that won't allow him to actually cherish or even edify that particular attitude. It could be financial, it could be personal, it could be his self-image of jealousy. Man, she looks so good. Who is she looking good for? Why are you looking so good and then you're leaving the house, and things of that nature. But the reason why I know that they love it is because that's how men are. And so with his wife, if he's not edifying that, I can guarantee you, when you put 20 beautiful women that walk across in front of him, he's not going to be head down. He's going to admire. It doesn't mean that he's looking for that woman, but he's going to admire the time, because what we look at it, that is time, that is effort, that is care that person or that woman has put into place to represent herself the best that she can. And there's no man that I have actually run into that is not important to them. However, they may not make it important for their wife, but I can tell you it is important to them. And so there's some underlying things that may be taking place as to why they don't edify it. In my perspective, I had to grow into understanding it as well. And for me in the very beginning, some of it was financial. Did I admire it? Yes. When I saw her, here it was. I remember right now to this day, this is 30 plus years ago. I remember it's picture perfect. It's a Polaroid in my head. I'll never forget it. It's one of those Memorex moments. I can see I remember the exact very first time I saw her. I remember where we were. I remember where I was standing. I remember how her haircut was. I remember the earrings she had on. I remember the brooch that she had on her dress, how her dress fit. I remember the walk that she had. I remember everything about her. Didn't know her attitude, didn't know her heart, didn't know her family history, didn't know any of that, but I remember everything I saw. And I can tell you one thing, I had made it a point that I was not going to get into any relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend type stuff. Why? I was, I wasn't a senior, but this was junior high school. It was an 8th and 9th grade center. I'm the 9th grader. I am just going to this year, I am not going to have a relationship. I saw her, all that changed. Physical. So when a man tells me that it's not important, he's lying. And there's some other stuff that is preventing him from allowing her to know how important it is. It may be the fear, if I keep edifying it, she's going to keep going out buying more stuff, and I'm insecure in our finances. And ladies, I can tell you this, don't wait until you get the compliments. Don't do it for the compliment, do it because that's what you should do anyway, period. Don't wait for the compliment from him because it might not come, but I can guarantee you, he can't help himself. It's going to change him. He can't help himself. He may resent it in the beginning, and deep inside, he appreciates it. He loves it. Okay. And like I said, there could be many other issues that could be out there. Maybe you work around a bunch of guys. Okay. And he's not secure that, for 8 hours you're dressing up for the other guys. And that's what he thinks in his mind, that you're dressing up around these guys that you work around. And it's not about fancy. It's just about small, simple detail. That's all it is. It's simple, small detail. It's not about what you buy, but it's the care and the attention that you take to say, I'm representing myself the best way that I can in this moment.
Right now, I see that you jumped on. Did you want to chime in?
Yes. How you doing, Mr. Bug?
I want to make sure I answer Kim's question, though. Kim, did I answer your question?
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much for going into depth with that. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely, I want to say good evening to both you guys and everyone on the panel. I just got to jump in as a male, and I mean, I said fist pumps to Mr. Bugs because that's the truth. Don't no male want to see their queen or queen sacrificing their happiness, sacrificing themselves if they're in a position where they don't have to. We want to see y'all, do y'all. A lot of times we put ourselves on the back burner, which, like you said, self-care for us too is important. My mom had to tell me, she had to really enforce it when she talked to me about making sure I take some time to take care of me also, because I'm so used to just my family first, my wife, my family, just making sure they are good. Y'all take care of y'all, I'll get me. but it has to be a point that we still get us. No time greater than this last year for me, I really realized how important it was. And my family has realized it also. They like, you go take care of your massage, and because we couldn't get a couples appointment. And we was in Cancun. She was like, no, you go. You go because you need this. And so, but that's where, and she took hers the next day, but she had me go first this time. Normally I'm like, no, you. But in this world, as men, exactly what Mr. Holdenbug said, that's what we want. I don't care, especially in this time of COVID, we don't want to see you just not putting yourself, because we know it's already rough, for this last year, we already know it's rough being in the house and not being able to do the things you like to do, maybe going out shopping or going out doing the things you like to do. So do what you can to make yourself happy. We're going to be happy watching you guys be happy. And that's the way we tick. And I really I honestly, everything he said, I totally agree with it. Totally. So I just wanted to, didn't want you guys to think you were just Holden and David, but a lot of us feel like that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Well, honey, we got a couple people who've been in the queue for questions quite some time. Let me open it up real quick for Deborah Weaver to come on to the line. Deborah, you are now live. Tell us your question that you got. Deborah, are you there?
You need to bring her on the stage. She's not on the stage.
I have unmuted her. Let's see here. Deborah?
I don't know how to do. Can you do it, Tawana? Do you know how to do it?
Nope, I'm in here. Hold on. I've got it, honey. Hold on. Okay, let me see if I can, let me see. Deborah may not be there right now. Let me see. Okay, has she not accepted it?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, well, let me go to.
Hello?
Hello, is that Deborah?
Yes, this is Deborah. I'm sorry, I was a little clubhouse challenged. Okay. I've enjoyed everything that's been said about self-care, and what all I wanted to just share is how important it is to, in the midst of everything that you're doing, take care of, I'm sorry, little out of breath. In the midst of everything that you're doing and taking care of other people, taking care of self. But I guess for me, when I retired, I realized that my self-care had to shift, because as long as I was working, the outer part of taking care of self and being visible, and that epitome was not just for home, but for the outside as well. But then when I became retired and I'm at home, the taking care of the nails, going to the spa kind of got put on the back burner, but I've been trying to do more of it. And I didn't realize until the last self-care episode, just how important that was in my overall being. And how I've been looking at things. And I think I was kind of putting it off on the pandemic, but it really was more than just the pandemic. It was like a loss of identity of myself, because I had been working and being the mother, the educator, the principal, all of these other hats. And then all of a sudden, that major hat was removed. So the Self-Care Sunday really made me go very deep in myself and realize that I had lost a part of, I guess, my own inner being. And coming back to the reality that it's okay to go get my nails done. I can start going back to the spa. Why am I paying for the massages and not getting a massage every month? Like, really? But that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate that. That's a great insight, and we're right. We can't blame it on the pandemic, but I'm glad you recognize it and say, pandemic, no pandemic, whatever it is, I still have to live through this pandemic, so let me take care of myself.
Exactly.
Because I can tell you this, guys, I got my cars washed during the pandemic. You know, my grass, guess what? I still have my grass and all my trees manicured during the pandemic. All of that stuff still got done during the pandemic. And so we have to treat ourselves better than we treat our things.
Amen. Bolivian, I think you've been in here for a while. Did you want to chime in?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you?
Awesome. I'm great. You know me as Dee, and I'm in Houston. And right now I'm working on my heart rate coming down a little bit. I'm just a little nervous. But I want to say, first of all, that I so appreciate you and Mr. Bug, that I have followed you and appreciated you and not bought into, but learned how to receive some of the philosophy, almost all of them, as part of my life, and some of them as my mantra. So I do certainly appreciate both of you. The part about the car, oh my goodness, that part right there is like heaven. God to sit in the car for a few minutes and get ready for that new hat that you're about to put on. I do that all the time. But one thing I wanted to touch on, Mrs. Buzz, is that when I was home 5 years with my kids, I soon realized that people tend to think, people know when you are a go-to person, when you can handle, and when you just take on things because you can, not so much that you want to, because you're able to. And I learned quickly that if I don't learn how to say no, I'm going to be dead.
Yeah.
So I had to, learn how to graciously say, oh, thank you so much, but not this time. Can you remember me next time? And all those ways that I had to say, if I don't protect me, I'm not going to be here.
Right.
So would you guys touch on the value of no and how that locks into that self-worth and self-value, if you would?
Well, we actually talked about that last week, because that is definitely a way to maintain self. Is definitely a way to honor yourself. And one of the things that I had to get I'm not necessarily a people pleaser, but I do get a lot of joy from helping other people and doing things from other people. I'm a big giver, so I have a soft spot in that regard. But learning to say no is priceless. And here's the thing: every time you say yes, when you really mean no, you're building resentment for the people around you. And when you're building resentment for the people around you, you don't have an authentic relationship. So you're betraying yourself. Whenever you say yes, when you know it's something that you shouldn't do, and when you don't feel it in your heart to do something begrudgingly, it's just, it's contradictory to everything we've been talking about. And and I feel that sometimes you strengthen your relationships by saying no, because you teach people not to take you for granted. When you're so easily accessible all the time, the more you, in my experience, the more you give to people, the less they value you and appreciate you. And in my life, it's been the people that I've done the most for that have treated me the worst.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, honey.
No, no, you were. I think you hit the nail right on the head, and covered it in detail. It's nothing more that I can add to it, because we've had the similar experiences and with the similar people. So I'll be taking away from it, trying to add to it.
Well, thank you so much for your question, B, and your comments. I want to go to Andrea Haynes. Andrea, are you out there? I know that you had a lot to say last week, and so many people benefited, and they loved your contribution to the call. And I just thought, from all the things that you've heard Holton talk about and things we've been talking about today, if you had something you'd like to add.
Well, let me just say, my favorite CEO has lit up the clubhouse today. Okay, let's just be very clear on that. Now I'm gonna have to find the title for you, but right now he holds the title for favorite CEO. So I might have to give you favorite co-CEO. But that analogy, Holton, that you used about the house and about going in and you find it immaculate and how people tend to follow suit based on, basically they follow the rhythm of youth. We don't tend to think about that in terms of, I call it a cliche saying as to, you teach people how to treat you. We all say that, but how many of us really do that? How many of us really teach people how to treat us? That analogy, I'll never forget. It's embedded in my brain. And every time I have a situation, which is not often, but I do have it every now and then where I have to question, well, why is this person acting that way with me? Why are they treating me this way? And it goes back to, well, it's maybe a pattern that I have set, that I've shown them how I treat myself. And it's just, that analogy has stuck out with me. So I am just sitting here like, oh my God. It really was an aha moment for me, because I had one of those moments this week where I was challenged with that. And I didn't understand why. When he gave that analogy, all I saw was that situation flash right before my eyes. And basically, it was my fault, because I allowed something to happen, and I allowed that person to feel like they could treat me that way. I allowed them to feel like I didn't have value in that area. So it had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with the stage that I set, and they just followed suit. The other thing I want to piggyback on is the part about, you all talked about, I think Crystal mentioned it first, was about having that moment. She talked about the carpool line. I remember I used to do the same thing, get there early just so I can have that time. But even when I come home now, I don't come immediately into the house. I take a few minutes to decompress and to get myself ready for the house. So whatever I had going on before I got here, I don't bring that into the house. It's nice, clean, and crisp. Whatever happened in my day before I got there, no one knows, unless they ask me. So I appreciate this call today and the comments and, that everybody has made, but my favorite CEO just laid it out and just gave every woman on here permission to take care of themselves, because he just told us that that's what they like, that's what they want. So the next time somebody's spouse is complaining about something, is this on replay? So that we can replay that part. Because we all know men are visual, but it's something about when you're getting ready to do something that's for your own visuality. It becomes, well, do you really need to do that? Oh yeah, I do, because I know this is what you like, because this is what attracted you to me, right? Okay, well, that's enough on my soapbox.
Thank you, honey bun. Anything else you have, honey? Because we're about to wind up. I usually end at 5:45.
Oh, yep. Well, I got another question in the chat, in the queue here. Hold on one second. I got two other questions in the chat. I'll open it up to, I think it's Nabintu Drame. I'm going to bring you on so that you can answer your question, and then Elliot Shield will be next. So, Nabintu, you are live on Clubhouse. What is your question?
Hello, you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so hello, I don't know if you recognize me, HB, but I am the translator of Abdi.
Of course I remember.
Yeah.
Yes, I recognize you. I heard you yesterday.
Okay. So my question is, I had this question, it's been a long time, but my question is, when you are working with your partner, your associate, how you can make the difference and make the right separation between your professional life and your private life? Because as I am like young, as I am a woman, I am really professional, but sometimes it is difficult to get the limit. I don't know if you get my question. So I know if you have the experience with Earlene, you are working both together, your wife. So how you organize yourself daily to make this separation, the right separation between the private life and the professional life?
Well, I'm gonna take this on straight on, and then I'll pass it
Yeah.
back. I'll pass it to Earlene
Yeah.
as well. I ruined it in the beginning. We were horrible at it. We had no models to teach us how to behave as business partners, and then how to behave as husband and wife. And even before we were married, boyfriend and girlfriend. So we were horrible, and it almost, it just almost ruined a lot of stuff in our relationship, because we were ignorant. We just didn't know. And so here's what I do know. I am married to my wife. I'm not married to my business partner.
Yeah.
And so what I learned is what works good for us. Some things are not good for us to work on together.
Okay.
This is our relationship, okay? And because we are both leaders and strong-headed, and we create disasters together. I'm just being honest with you, okay?
Okay.
And we create disasters together. Why? I like things going my way.
Okay.
And guess what? She likes things going her way.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the creative side of certain things, what I've learned is, if it's in her area, let me step aside and find out, honey, what is it that I can do to support you in this? But I'm not trying to be the co-creator. When we co-create, we devastate.
Okay, I got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for example, when it comes, like, we're about to go do Accelerate, right, in Mazatlan. So she's not on my conference calls when I'm organizing the schedule, and I'm organizing who the speakers are going to be and what content. She can be there if she wants to, but she's not on that call. Okay. But there's another element: how the decor is going to go, how the all the travel arrangements and the parties that we're going to do. I'm not on those calls, because that's what she's doing. Because I know as soon as I get on a call, my natural tendency is to take over and dominate.
Yeah, sort of like this call.
Yeah, kind of like that. So if I know this is what's going to happen, let me stay in my lane. Let me support her, and then she can support. She's not going to dominate. She doesn't try to dominate in my lane, but she's going to try to give me advice that doesn't sound like advice. It sounds like what I should do. And I don't want to hear from my wife what me as a CEO should do.
Yeah,
as the CEO. Right now, as a husband, what I should do, she has no problem telling me.
Yeah.
So here's the thing I'll tell you to too. Keep it real. Don't try to be a professional partner. And what that means is, I'm not going to try to be a professional husband.
Okay.
Because I'm going to fail at being a professional husband. HB is not going to show up in the relationship. So when we're in our relationship, you can ask, Mark, during, we had this power outage over here, Mark and Debbie, they stayed over here for about 3 days. And he's like, this is how you guys really are when you're here. Okay. Like when we did the From Our House to Yours, that's who I am. That's who we are together. When we have our business, we put on, we have a different hat on. So honey, let me pass it to you to shed some light.
Thank you very much.
Well, for me, I think it's real simple. The thing that helped us, we had to figure out who was better at what, and we had to get out of each other's way. So like he said, I'm very organized and detailed, and he is very creative and creative and
brilliant
and bossy.
Brilliant,
creative and bossy.
phenomenal. If you throw some adjectives, I can throw some out.
And so I feel like what we had to
do is just figure out what each other is good at. He gets out of my way and I stay out of his way. And that is what ultimately worked for us. Now you talk to Sam and Kim. Sam and Kim are both, are a couple that are both good at some of the same things. They both present, they both can train, and that's, and that works for them. And so I think, it goes back to that self-awareness, understanding what your strengths are, understanding what the other person's strengths are, and then catering to that and not trying to switch lines. Some people they may want to present, but presenting isn't your strong suit. Yeah. And so you're less effective. And so I think that, at some point you've got to talk about what is best for the business and not what's best for the ego.
Okay. I like this sentence. Thank you, Earlene. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Got more questions, honey? I got, let me go to Elliot Shields now. Elliot, you are now live on Clubhouse. What's your question?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say thank you so very much to what you two as a couple bring to people. I don't think we'll ever really know the lives that you touch. And you guys are absolutely amazing. I am so grateful. My wife has been able to know you guys for the last 12 years. And Ms. Buck, say this. My wife went to your first Women Who Wins event.
Mm-hmm.
And when she came back, she was a totally different woman.
Oh.
She was my wife, but then she became my wife and my best friend at that point.
That's beautiful.
Talking about.
Thank you for saying that.
Mr. Bug, I want to say that you are 100% on point, because men, if you really think about it, the first thing that attracted you to your wife was her self-care. Mm-hmm. So when you say that it does not matter, then it's for another reason, but it's not the real reason. Mm-hmm. Because what we do is that self-care attracts us first, because we haven't spoken to them. We don't know their heart. We probably don't even know what they're thinking. It was that self-care that drew us in. And then we got to learn who they are, which even solidified and made that bond even stronger. So I want to say, Mr. Buggs, you are totally 100% correct with that. Friday was my wife and I 11th anniversary, and my baby was looking some kind of good.
Listen, Earlene, I'll tell you this, man. Thanks for those compliments, and I love hearing my boys talk about how good their wife looks. I love hearing you talk and say how she was looking. That just brings joy to me. That is great. That gives me an identity that there's some level of security in y'all's relationship. That's awesome. Proud of you. Happy anniversary too.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Who's next, honey? Oh, babe, wait a minute, because Tawana had a question. Tawana had a question from Zoom. Tawana, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Okay, so really quick, for starters, I've really enjoyed this. I've learned so much, but I don't want to take away from this individual that has this question. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. So there's a gentleman that wants to remain anonymous, but I think he has a very powerful question here. So he grew up in a household with a father that was an awesome provider, and they never wanted for anything. But his father dropped the ball as it relates to treating his mother right and valuing her as the wife. So his question is it possible for him, as being in that environment, to actually become that amazing husband that he wants to be? He stated here that he is a great husband. But he's struggling with being a great provider. And sometimes he drops the ball with making sure that he's happy. And it feels like a chore at times. So his question is it possible, when you've grown up in an environment with a person that didn't treat their wife right, is it possible for you to be that right man to the wife?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Because remember, what your father did was based off of what he learned and what he chose to do with what he learned. Just let me get my other earpiece. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Okay. I don't know if I'm connected, but anyway, it was what he learned. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge how he treated your mother from a family standpoint. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, it's an echo, but we can hear you good.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can turn maybe the speakerphone is on. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So what your dad learned is something that you got to remember. There's 3 types of knowledge that we have. Okay, 3 types of knowledge. Number 1 is called learned knowledge. Okay, learned knowledge, and that's something that we're going to actually get taught either from a book, from a class, from information sources that we're going to get. So we get learned knowledge. The second knowledge that we have is called activity knowledge. We learn by doing. Okay. And that is when you do the thing, you'll have the power. So when you start doing something, you actually learn more. That's why the teachers are the best learners, because they're the ones doing it the most. When you teach a class and you teach that class over and over and over, you learn something more and more. You learn more than the students learn. And then the third one is going to be modeling knowledge. Now, so your dad picked up one of those 3 sources of knowledge, and then he made a decision to act on that particular knowledge. That was his choice. Here's the thing. You don't have to make the same choice your dad made. You don't. All right? Remember, choices are not genetically passed on. They're not. Now, your blood type, your skin color, your height, your weight, all of those things, when you were born, none of those things can you change, because you didn't learn to be your skin color. You didn't learn to be whatever country you were born from. You didn't learn to be how tall you are. It's just who you are genetically. Everything else has been learned. And so from this point on, you can choose to be a better father. You can choose to be a better provider. You can choose to be the husband that you want to be. As a matter of fact, I remember early on in our marriage, whereas we had issues in our marriage of what I would consider to be unhappiness, because we just didn't understand how to extract the happiness out of it. Well, how I started with affirmation. I started with saying over 100 times a day how awesome my wife was, how awesome my marriage was, how awesome a provider I was. And what I did is I spoke myself into that position. I created a whole new picture of who she was based on the resentments that I had before. And those resentments that I had to her, had about her, was because every time I looked at her, communicated with her about certain things, this picture popped up, or I was presented this image or attitude. Well, what I did is I changed it, and I spoke the things that I wanted to see in her. And what happened is, over a period of time, when I would see her, she became the woman that I was talking about. Guess what? She had never changed. It was just my choice of who I wanted to see. And so I spoke that into existence. That was how I did it. And all of it's learned. It's learned behavior, learned characteristics, and you can learn to provide and be whoever it is that you want to be. Anything in this life outside of what's genetically handed to you, you can learn to do it. You've learned how to do everything that you've done up until this point. You've learned it. If you go out and get a new job, completely outside of the field that you're used to now, what are they going to do? They're going to train you on how to be good at it. And if we can do it for a job, can we do it for happiness?
Wow.
If we can do it for a job, can we do it for love? Can we do it for self-care? So the answer is absolutely yes, you can.
Wow.
All right, Joe Peach Graves, you are next. You are up in the clubhouse. What's your question, Joe Peach?
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Actually, it's funny. I was on last week, and I'll say it again. This is self-care. Being here and listening to people who have gotten to where you want to be, so that you can save yourself some time in the thinking process to just kind of get the answers. So thank you so much for being here and spending the time. That affirmation piece was something you helped me with. We had a vault training, and I had asked a question, and you told me to do affirmations, and that's helped out. What I would say is, you know, the people who are on stage speaking of self-care, a lot of times I think of it as, you know, coming up for a breath, right? You need to come up for a breath. However, if you think that you're drowning, breathing is not a good idea. Because if you're underwater and you breathe, you're going to drown. So when you're in that space where you're hustling, I was in a clubhouse room the other day and they were talking about hustling and are you always hustling? Would you consider self-care to be a part of your hustle? Or would you think that there are certain times when you're hustling, when you're underwater, self-care becomes less important? That's my question.
Hey, let me take this. I'll take it first.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Vic.
When I think about what a hustle is, when I think about hustling, for many years I hustled for worthiness. The hustle is when you don't feel worthy and you feel like you have to earn that validation externally. So that is how I internalize the hustle. Now, if you mean hustle in terms of what I'm doing to earn a living, that's different. But when I think about self-care is something to me that is entirely personal and interpersonal. It has nothing to do with other people. It has nothing to do with somebody else's opinion or anything like that. When I think about my own self-care practice, I think it should be a part of my life, no matter what I do for a living. So no, I would say no to that question. I don't consider it a hustle at all. Go ahead, honey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Now if I'm listening to Joe, I hear it differently than Earlene hears it. I hear it when he's talking about the hustle as when you're grinding, when you're going out there making things happen, and you're in the battle for what it is that you're doing. That's the way I'm interpreting the question, and I could be wrong or whatever it is. So you're going to have both answers. If you're out there grinding and you are in the hustle and you're making things happen, and maybe your hustle is not paying off the way you should and you're underwater, should you practice self-care? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you should. Because one of the reasons, here's the thing. How can a broken hammer chop down a tree even faster?
Right.
A broken axe. If my axe is broken, would it make sense for me to come up and repair the handle on my axe instead of holding the metal component in my hand, trying to chop the tree down because I'm in the hustle? No, let me take a moment and fix the handle on my axe. It's the old saying that if you had 8 hours to chop down a cherry tree, what would you do? Spend 7 hours sharpening your axe. And so what's happening is most people are building their business with broken emotions, broken love, broken self-care, broken self-images, broken self-love, broken self-worth, and all of that. Right. So self-care is even more important when you're in the hustle and you feel like you're drowning. You better make sure you come up, and even if it's not for a full breath of air, you come up so that you can get whatever it is that you need, so that when you go back down to hustle, your hustle is worth it. That's the way that you've got to treat it.
I completely agree, and I thank you so much. That's why I asked the question, because there's 200 people down in the audience that are listening, and I know that a lot of the times we think to ourselves, well, sure, they can say that they've already come up. When you come up, you can breathe. Okay. But when you haven't come up yet, you wonder, well, okay, I'll breathe when I come up. And that idea of you spend 7 hours sharpening your axe, I feel like a lot of times people take that phrase wrong because they think to themselves, okay, what I'll do is I'll spend 7 hours sharpening my axe before I start chopping. Versus the idea, right? Versus the idea that you chop for a little while and you recognize when your axe is dull and you sharpen it, you're gonna end up sharpening more than you're chopping, but you've gotta be chopping, you know what I mean?
You've got to get back to chopping. It's the reason we do events. It's the reason Earlene does, her win events that she's done. It's the reason, and it's because we get so busy going in one particular direction that we need our pencil sharpened. We need our axe sharpened. We need to get realigned. You know, I go to my chiropractor. Why? So that I can get readjusted. I'm doing so much all over the place. I don't feel my body getting out of alignment. I've got one leg that's shorter than the other by 2 inches. When I go to my chiropractor and I lay on the table and he measures, he says, wow, I can tell you've been grinding. I said, how do you know? He said, yep, you're back up to 2.5 inches short. And what he does is he works it out and he takes my hip flexors and it's this painful move that we do. And within about 5 minutes, he turns me back over, he measures, he says, well, I've extended your leg now about 1 full inch.
Wow.
And guess what I got to do? I'm going to go back out there and I'm going to go grind. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to be in airplanes. I'm going to be on conference calls. I'm going to be in uncomfortable positions. And every time I do something, it's maybe 1 little centimeter that I'm shrinking again. 1 little centimeter I'm shrinking. And then I got to pop back up, go back over, see him. Hey, doc, come straighten me out. We got to do the same thing with ourselves. You got to do the same thing with self-care. Every component of it is self-care.
Wow.
Go ahead, baby. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's a multitask. I mean, you've got to chop and grind at the same time. I mean, and you know, for me, I feel like we're sometimes so driven for success and for happiness and all these external things, and we don't realize that we've got to get this right. This is the foundation for everything. That self-love, that self-care is that self-worth and self-awareness. Those things are all a part of that foundation. And when we don't get that right, no matter what kind of success you put on a faulty foundation, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be sturdy. That's why you have so many people in this world who have money, but they have a terrible life. You wouldn't even trade places with them. You know, it's you know, money is just one of the things in this pie. It's just one component of the pie. It is not the whole pie. So that success that we're so driven to have, if you have to forsake your family and your health and all the things that matter to you, it means a whole lot less, even when you accomplish it. So I just think that that's one of the things that we have to consider. Self-care is not, I'm going to do it when, it's I'm going to do it while.
There you go.
Wow. Woo, that was it right there.
You're welcome to, Peach. Before we go to Elson, there's one other thing, and I don't know if you talked about it last week, but I just thought about. I think it's one of the epitomes of self-care. And I know we don't have time to get into it right now, but I just want to bring it out. I think it's self-explanatory, and I think one of the best forms of self-care that people could actually get is therapy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Counseling. Therapy does not have to be, I schedule with this particular person, I have to go sit up under them and pay them $100 an hour because I don't have that. Therapy could be, you know, finding yourself in a therapeutic communication relationship with somebody who has your answer or somebody who can hear your question. They may not even have the answer. But allowing yourself to ask the question, giving yourself permission to ask the question and to be heard is self-care.
Right. That's beautiful, babe. And I think that, even in today's time, therapy is still taboo. It's something that we're ashamed that we even need.
Oh yeah.
And we don't want to talk about it, but it's, hey, if you need help, get it.
Guys, listen, and where Earlene and I come from, if you even mention that you were seeing a therapist or that you're going to go see a therapist, that was a problem.
Thank you, Christina. That right there just stuck out to me.
We didn't do doctors unless it was emergency or something was broken. We didn't do doctors, therapy, telling anybody your problems. My mom, our saying was, don't go talk outside of my house.
Not do it when, do it while.
That whatever took place at home,
and that meant anybody. Right.
That meant it better stay at home. But here's the thing: there were no answers at home, and that was a broken philosophy. And to Tawana, who was voicing the unheard, the anonymous person, I had to learn. We learned that was not who we should be. We learned something different. And I don't pass that on. She doesn't pass that on to our son that, hey, son, listen, if you have an issue, you better stay in this house. No, you better go get some help. You better talk to somebody. So yes, you can learn some different things. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Last question here, and then I'll pass it back over to my beautiful wife who has brought this entire call together and give you the party shots. I've come on and kind of try to assist you.
So Holton,
you know how I do it.
Yeah. Just one thing. This is Joe. Sorry, just before I leave, because I do have to run to a meeting, but I wanted to say thank you so much. That was a mouthful that you just said, and I hope people heard you. I also wanted to say here on Clubhouse, I actually founded the Ibuumerang Club, just so that it wouldn't be taken. So if y'all wanted to get the Ibüümerang Club and have them, definitely follow me and feel free to write me on Instagram or a text message, whatever, so that I can make you admins on that club so you can go on ahead and take it. I just wanted to be of service in that way.
Absolutely. Hey, Joe, May will probably be with either May or Kitty or Yasmin will probably connect with you on making sure that they get that done. I think they're on the call here. Yeah, I think I see May on the call, yes. So she'll connect with you and make sure. Thanks a lot for doing that. I really appreciate it.
We have one other
Yeah,
question,
absolutely.
honey.
When they allowed people to make their call.
Oh my God, we can't hear him.
Yep, he's breaking up there. Uh-oh, we lost you, Joe. You're in a bad area here. I'm gonna go ahead and go to Elsid. Elsid, you are our last question here. Come on to the call and tell us your question or ask your question.
Hey, Mr. Bugs and Mrs. Bugs, I appreciate you guys for holding this call and wanted to honor, obviously, just the individuals and the leaders that you are. My question is, part of self-care is setting boundaries and being selective on who to give access to and when. Because you have to make sure that your energy and your time is invested, not just spent. So how do you decide who do you give access to and when to give access to them?
That's a great question.
For me, I always look at it in terms of number one, if I'm going to be in somebody's presence, there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be either two types of meetings I'm going to have. I'm going to add value to them, or they're adding value to me. If they're adding value to me, I want to earn as much of their time as possible. So if I'm talking to a coach or a mentor or someone like that, or somebody, I want as much of it because I have an insatiable appetite for information and learning. Now, I always want to respect it. My philosophy is I always leave a person's house 5 minutes before they wish I would have left. I always shut up 5 minutes before they wish that I would have stopped talking if I'm at their house. Or if they're pouring into me, you know what I'm saying? Now, if it's someone that I need to give information to, or I need to have, I'm the one who's doing the providing. I operate off of what I call limited access. Okay, and I kind of tier out my access. I have to look at, okay, well, what's the value if I give them this information? How much value is it going to be back into the universe should they do everything that I suggest? So that means if I'm talking to someone and they needed some help on just a quick financial situation, that's not going to change the world. That's not an hour conversation. That's 15 minutes because I can tell you here's what you need to do, and then I'm done. If I'm talking to somebody and they come into me because they've got this incredible idea, it may be much longer. If it's somebody who's already set an example of taking great things and information and multiplying it, making things work, then that's a much longer time. When I find it may be someone who may not even necessarily can appreciate the value that I bring to the from a time perspective, I'm not going to allow them to waste my time. And so I'm going to be the gatekeeper of my time and make sure that those meetings are very, very short. I don't allow a person, to create meetings for me by asking questions like, hey, listen, what are you doing Thursday? People, even my staff, I have to straighten them out. Well, tell me, what do you need? Because Thursday I may be free, but it doesn't mean that I'm free for you. And so you got to just know how to be a gatekeeper of your time. Ask them a question. What is it that you need? Well, man, I just want to see if we can hang out. Well, Thursday I won't be available. Now my time may be completely free. But if they say, what are you doing Thursday? And I say nothing. Well, you want to hang out? Now it became personal to them because I don't want to hang out and I don't have anything to do. Now, I very seldom do neutral meetings, whereas I don't have value to give and they don't have value to give. That's called a waste of time. Okay, that's a waste of time, and I just don't do those type of meetings. And if I happen to find myself in one, what I will do is I'll find a way to cut it short. Evie, you want to take that piece of that?
No, I didn't, babe. I mean, there's nothing else left to say with that. That was an awesome question and you gave a beautiful answer.
Elsa, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll tell you guys is phones are time wasters. They're the biggest time wasters when it comes to communication. Okay. And people know that I don't like to talk on the phone. I don't. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I'm really quick to get off the phone. I don't lollygag on the phone at all, even when it comes to business. And it's because there's so much to do. And I go back and I look and see how much, what we spoke about in an hour, could I have done it in 20 minutes? And my wife has seen me have some conversations with a couple people that were much longer than it should have been. And she was like, did you kind of evaluate how valuable that was? Yeah, I did. We were probably on 20 minutes too long. How long were you on the call? Oh, 25 minutes. It should have been a 5-minute conversation. And so it's not that every single conversation goes that way. I don't plan to say every conversation is going to be 20 minutes or 5 minutes. What I always do is this here. When I'm having a conversation, it's kind of like this clubhouse. This clubhouse was probably intended to be an hour. But anytime I'm in a conversation, what I do is I try to add more value to the conversation. And if I can add more value, guess what? People don't notice the time.
Right. Absolutely.
If I can increase the value. So I'm going to increase the value of this by turning it over to my beautiful wife. It has been so wonderful being your sidekick on this clubhouse, talking about Self-Care Sunday Part 2. Anytime I want you back on as my co-host. I mean, anytime as you want me back.
Oh, that's true. You came on and took over, but that's okay. That's who you are. That's why I love you. But you guys, this was amazing, honey. Thank you for your contribution today and for your time. I only expected you to be on for 20 minutes, but I know that's my trick. I asked for 20 minutes and then you give me everything you have. But I appreciate you. I appreciate it.
I asked you for a date, and guess what? You've given me over 30 plus years.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Touche. Okay, you guys, this is our call for today. Thank you, baby. Thank you for everyone who contributed, all of the questions. This has been amazing, you guys. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.